because you tweeted this out during the game. And Levis's numbers statistically, clearly the best game he's had since his debut against Atlanta. Statistically, I think it was 14 of 17, 160 yards or so, a couple of touchdowns, high yards per attempt, a lot of good, in terms of the advanced analytics, a lot of really high numbers in the advanced analytics department. And yet they were down 27-0. And I think Vrabel addressed some of this stuff on Monday's press conference. Just I don't think a couple of sequences in the game changed the outcome, but he wasn't wrong that a few dumb mistakes and penalties on third downs on defenses, and then you turn around and you turn the ball over, and then you turn around and you make another dumb mistake, and that does lead to a snowball effect, and you lose to one of your rivals in the division, 34-14, in what is basically a total blowout.
Well, I mean, when you only run 38 plays to an offensive plays to the opposing team 69, you're not going to win. Like, I don't even know if there's a team that's ever won that has ran less than 40 plays. Like, it feels like that's maybe like back in the 70s or 80s or something like that. But that's just not a recipe for success. And I've seen a few people say, well, run passes back. Look, if you go back and look at the drives, there is only one drive that ended in a punt that started out. And there's actually only one drive, period, but it did end in a punt. And it's the very first drive. They went run, pass. Wasn't run, pass anytime else. I'm sure it was like in the middle of a long drive. I'm sure they went run, pass. But to start out a drive and stall, like we've seen for numerous years, where they go run, pass, punt, only one drive. So that's not the issue. So you can, and I've seen that, a couple of radio shows say, or are they trying to feed Derrick Henry too much? Well, he only got 10 carries, so I don't fucking watching. But again, it's 10 carries off 38 plays. So the problem is sustaining drives. The problem is penalties. I thought the first penalty on Roger McCreary, the first on third down, that was switched to defense on everybody. But I thought that was a bullshit call. He got grabbed by the face mask by Calvin Ridley and pulled into Calvin Ridley by Calvin Ridley, and they called pass interference on that. I thought the second one was a little ticky-tacky as well, but whether those are ticky-tacky or not, they still happen. They still hurt the team. Penalties hurt the team. And this team, ever since really last year, because we talked about it during the Giants game to start the year, about how I felt that the Tennessee Titans team wasn't itself because they kept committing penalties that you normally never saw them commit. And talked about it today, saying, I guess I'm just going to have to play the music a little bit louder and this and that, and hopefully that will help. Which I'm going to say something. I don't have a lot of blame. Like, if I'm given a blame pie, a big chunk of the pie is talent. Okay, that to me is the big. Everybody's telling you is talent. So number one,
with a bullet.
But I do got to bash Vrabel on this, and this is something that we've talked about many times about Vrabel. His biggest thing is stubbornness and ego, and I bashed Marcus for it. All those off seasons he kept saying, well, I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And Vrabel today gave that same fucking message that I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because it worked once before. Well, it's not working now. So, and it hasn't worked for the last two seasons. You could argue as a whole, it has not worked the last two seasons. As a leader, as a coach, you have to change something and playing the music a little bit louder. Maybe I don't know what the rules are on, like, allowing a player, beating a player, or like maybe like what you could do to embarrass a player. But obviously the music thing's not working for Dylan Radins. The music thing is not working for the team. Like, there's stuff that's not working. You got to figure something fucking out.
I agree. So there's a lot of you guys in the comments here, and I'm trying to sift through all of them. Joshua says, I think Tim Kelly's biggest flaw has to be his red zone play calling. I think we can get to that, although they were 1 for 1 in the red zone. So they actually significantly increased their percentage over the weekend. Trey says being bad is one thing, being dumb and bad is another. I would agree with that. D. Good said, I thought, hey, maybe bring Brewer back for another year, a year or two, excuse me. Now I'm good with this experiment. I don't know if I think Brewer is one of the least like of all the things on the offense that I'm concerned about, Brewer's kind of down the list. I'm not saying he had a great game, but like,
let me say something. He has no accuracy from shotgun. It doesn't matter who's back there. And Will Levis is the biggest target he's had, and he still has no accuracy. Like, he can't get the ball in shotgun. And Mike Vrabel said yesterday, we're going to have to give him 100 reps because we can't play, in practice, because we can't play from under center the whole time. But he's also easily replaceable in this upcoming free agency. If this free agent class, technically, currently as it sits, now people get signed and everything.
Sure.
It's easier to replace probably Brewer than replacing the tackles of free agency. So you got to be, while he may be down on the list, which I can agree, there's like 7 offensive linemen maybe like on this team that are worse than Aaron Brewer, which is an indictment of this team overall.
Yeah.
He is probably the most easily replaceable for next year to find an upgrade. That's just where I want to leave it with Brewer.
I think you're right, considering his profile, like overall talent level mixed with the positions easier to find, that kind of stuff. I can agree with what you're saying there. I think this is one thing I noticed when I rewatched the game this morning, which again, I don't know why. But King Carnage says, I just don't know how many starters are on this team would be starters on other teams. And I found myself looking at literally just the Jacksonville to Tennessee comparison in the game. And I'm going, okay, Jeffrey Simmons starts over any interior defensive lineman for Jacksonville. And then I'm starting to look, and I'm like, I'd rather have Etienne over Henry right now in their careers right now, today. That's a totally good debate. If you want to go the other way, I'm okay with that. I'd rather have the quarterback. I'd rather have all the receivers. I'd rather have the tight end. I'm not sure how many offensive linemen I would take from the Tennessee Titans roster.
I think Josh Wiley was probably the best tight end on the field.
Okay, maybe and that's fine. We can have that debate. I think if you start to look around,
that's just
Tyson,
that particular team.
Sure, Tyson Campbell didn't even play their best corner, who would be easily the best corner on the Titans roster. So maybe McCreary you start. Okay, he would start for Jacksonville. But the point being,
SMB probably would start opposite Tyson Campbell. McCreary starting the slot. I would think that Amani Hooker's better than probably one of their safeties. I think Amani Hooker safety is just not a position overall in the entirety of the NFL, and so it's not saying much about Amani Hooker. I'm just saying that Amani Hooker's probably in a slightly above average league safety. But safety's just a down position. It's like running back, right?
Like, I would rather have Cisco probably over Hooker, but then I'd rather probably start Hooker over their second guy. And I think it's interesting. Right. Like again, Hooker got absolutely torched by Calvin Ridley on the touchdown pass.
That was his only play that he got torched on.
But
that was his only fault.
That's Shane Bowen's fault. You should not ever be in a situation to have an elite number 1 wide receiver man-to-man in red zone with your safety, who's not exactly a burner as far as coverage goes. Like, that's poor play design or elite play design by Jacksonville. One of the two. Like,
it's probably a little bit of both, but I would say this: it's 4 yards. So I think what Hooker has, or what Vrabel said today, is technically correct, even though it's not correct maybe on this particular play and maybe with this particular player. There's very few people on the team that can cover a 4-yard space better than Amani Hooker. Now, again, you're going up against Calvin Ridley, but who are you going to put on him? Trey Avery, Eric Garror? I mean, when you really go down the list of who you actually put on him, you can put on Christian Fulton on him, who gave up 115 yards yesterday on 6 catches and 6 targets.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, you just have to say, maybe that's your initial reaction is like, oh, I can't believe that Hooker is on Calvin Ridley. But then you gotta go, well, they can put a Harold Landry on Hooker, like what I'm saying, there's just nobody else.
No, I agree. And frankly, when your number 1 corner over the last month and a half is getting benched in the third quarter for sucking ass, a coach's decision to play Trey Avery over Christian Fulton in the fourth quarter. Now, again, the game kind of out of hand at that point.